Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 10. The chemical weapon sarin gas works by not allowing your body's muscles to relax, so they can constrict but are unable to release, causing every single part of your body to cramp until you suffocate to death. Up until the 1800s, dentures were primarily made by the teeth of dead soldiers. Speaking of teeth, babies' adult teeth are located right below their eyeballs. There was a Roman form of torture known as goat's lick, where a person's feet were soaked in salt water and the goat would lick their feet until their flesh was gone. Most serial killers are born in November. When a woman with breast implants is cremated, her implants will melt and drip to the bottom of the furnace. A man was once discovered to have a fir tree growing inside of his body. The doctors thought it was a tumor, but they soon discovered he had inhaled a fir tree seed and it had sprouted and grown inside of his lungs.
This woman murdered her boyfriend for $30 million. 47-year-old Ina Canoyer poisoned her boyfriend's 51-year-old Stephen Riley after she found out that he inherited $30 million. Unfortunately for Ina, Stephen was never going to receive any money. This all started when Stephen received an email from an anonymous person who claimed to be his distant relative and offered him $30 million for absolutely no reason. Stephen believed that this was real and arranged a time to meet with this person to sign off on the cash. And on September 3rd, Stephen and Ina went to the airport where this person was supposed to meet them, but they never showed up. Now, this is where things take a turn. Before going to the airport, Ina made sure that Stephen drank a cup of tea that she had made him, which was poisoned with antifreeze. It did not take long for Stephen to feel extremely sick, and while others tried to take him to the hospital, Ina said that he just had a heat stroke and he should just go home. Ina waited until the next day to call paramedics, and at this point, Stephen was already deceased. According to their close friends, Stephen was planning to leave Ina when he received the money and share all the money with his kids. But she wasn't gonna let that happen. She believed she had rights to his money as his common law wife. Unfortunately for Ina, there was never any money, so she did this all for no reason, and now she faces up to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Two senior citizens have been caught keying luxury cars in a shopping centre car park. Police say this is 70-year-old Raymond Edwards, captured by a Tesla's security camera running a key along cars north of Brisbane. A woman who was also in the car park joined in. The Tesla's owner has been quoted $2,000 to fix the damage.
This is yet to be confirmed by authorities, but it is being reported that the prime suspect in the Madeleine McCann case, Christian Bruckner, may have taken pictures of her and or other children and buried them in his underground secret hideaway. A source told news outlet The Sun that authorities investigating now know that Christian Bruckner buried data carriers such as hard drives and USB sticks at any of the places where he'd stayed. And that was their main focus when they searched a man-made reservoir in the Algarve back in May. They conducted this search because they believed that Bruckner frequented the area, but it has been reported that nothing was found. But now a source told The Sun, quote, they really thought they might find pictures there, but they are not giving up hope. They believe he made duplicates because he loved to keep them like trophies. So cops are now trying to find out more about Christian Bruckner's movements, likely so that they can determine if there's anywhere else they can search for this possible evidence. While it is being reported that Christian Bruckner is going to be charged in connection with Madeleine McCann's disappearance, no official charges have been brought forward. He remains in prison for other charges, but it does seem like both German and Portugal authorities are very interested in him in connection with Madeleine's disappearance. So we'll see how this develops further.
A 6-year-old boy went missing, but when rescuers found him, they were shocked at what they found around him. A 6-year-old boy named Caden Leach went missing while playing outside alone. And even though his parents had never restricted him from playing outside, they were very worried when it was dark and Caden had not returned. They checked inside the house, and after searching for 15 minutes, they still couldn't find him. Fearing for their son's safety, they contacted the local police station and reported the situation. The next day, more than 100 local volunteers joined the search effort and launched a search operation in the forest behind Caden's house. Thankfully, at around 3:30 p.m., the search team found Caden, fortunately unharmed. But then a small object was found lying beside him, and after a closer examination, they were stunned by what they saw. Follow me in part 2 to find out what happened next.
Would you adopt him?
So traumatized, it makes me want to cry. You dumb motherfucker, I loved you, I loved you, I loved you.
Craigslist stories that should be wiped from our memory. Number 3, Michelle Wilkins. Warning, this is a really dark case. On March 18th, 2015, Michelle Wilkins, who was 7 months pregnant, responded to a Craigslist ad stating that they were selling baby clothes in Boulder County, Colorado. She arrived at Danelle Lane's home where they talked about her pregnancy, and a little later on, Danelle lured her down to her basement, claiming that is where the baby clothes were. On their way down, that is when Danelle attacked her.
Hit her up the head with a lava lamp, which broke in its thick glass. She took a piece of the lava lamp, Michelle in the neck with it, and as it was flirting from Michelle's neck, she choked her, pushed her down on the bed, held a pillow over her until she was unconscious, cut Aurora, the baby, out. Aurora by then was, and carried Aurora upstairs and laid her dead in the bathtub.
To everyone's shock, Michelle did survive this brutal attack, however, her baby did not. Danelle, with tears filling her eyes, was sentenced to 100 years in prison, and honestly, that is exactly what she deserves.
With any of the witnesses to or victims of the act you are alleged to have committed. The victims were named in the mandatory protection order with specific people that you shall not have any contact with. You'll stay away from the homes, their homes. You'll stay away from any other location that they are likely to be found. You'll not contact directly or indirectly any of those folks that were named in the protection order. And you shall not communicate with them. You shall not possess or purchase or control a firearm or any other weapon.
Breaking news! A 21-year-old was just caught with $8.5 million worth of mushrooms at his house in Connecticut. The DEA Hartford Task Force and Statewide Narcotics Task Force North Central Office received a tip leading them to the residence. Upon questioning the man, he guided investigators to a detached garage where a substantial mushroom-growing operation was discovered. Initially, he claimed these mushrooms were not illegal, but investigators pressed on. He refused consent to search the main residence, prompting detectives to secure a search warrant from the New Britain Superior Court. When executed, the search unearthed a psilocybin mushroom factory in various stages of growth, with an estimated street value of a staggering $8.5 million. He ultimately admitted to cultivating psilocybin, a Schedule I controlled substance, defined as drugs with no accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. As a consequence of their findings, the individual was apprehended on site and taken for processing. He now faces charges of possession with intent to sell, distribute narcotics, and operation of a drug factory. He is currently held on a $250,000 cash bond. This case sheds light on the illicit mushroom trade and its significant monetary value in the illegal market.
Sorry, sir. I know he's got...
Early on, officials realized the entire first floor is barricaded off, blocking all doors and windows. Officers use a ladder found on the side of the home to reach Wilson.
We see a ladder.
At the top of the ladder, officers find Wilson crying with a chain collar and padlock around her neck. Immediately, they ask about the suspect.
Is he Hispanic?
The suspect was later identified as 36-year-old Moses May, Wilson's estranged boyfriend and father to her child. She later told police he asked her to come over to clean the house. That's when he chained her up. She was there for about 5 hours before being rescued. video shows officers follow the chain from Wilson's neck to a bolt in the floor. Once she's safely removed from the home, officials use hedge clippers to remove the chain from Wilson's neck.
This pedophile mom in Ohio committed one of the most horrific crimes I've ever read about. I'm going to add a trigger warning in here right now. This is a very, very disturbing story, so viewer discretion is advised. So this is Ashley Jessup from Ohio. And in 2012, she was found guilty of rape and sentenced to life in prison. But who did Ashley assault? Well, it was her own 10-month-old baby. At the time of this crime, Ashley was dating 24-year-old Jordan Russell. The two seemed to be very in love, and they frequently exchanged explicit materials over email and text message of themselves, obviously. But then in August of 2011, Jordan asked Ashley to do something shocking. He asked her to perform explicit acts on her own 10-month-old baby son. And obviously he wanted her to film it and send it to him so he could keep these videos and images. And for some shocking reason, Ashley actually obliged. And she performed graphic and gruesome acts on her own son. So later that month, Jordan had actually broken up with Ashley and he already had a new girlfriend. And this new girlfriend of Jordan's was going through his computer when she discovered these extremely disturbing images and contacted the police. So obviously when the details of this case were made public, everybody was absolutely shocked. And the judge in this case actually stated that in his 30-year career, this was one of the most bizarre and disturbing cases he had ever had to cover. So Ashley was eventually convicted of a litany of charges, including assault, rape on a minor, everything like that. And she's still in prison to this day, serving out that life sentence. Now, this is a really, really disturbing story, and I really do think that she should be in prison for a very, very long time.
Ironized Yeast presents Light Out. Everybody.
Newly released body cam footage shows what happened to a woman who was abducted just a few weeks ago, walking down the street and held in a garage for 4 days with no water. I just want to go ahead and preface this by saying there is a massive trigger warning. This video is very tough to watch.
Why don't you just sit down there?
But we have cameras up to other reasons.
I got you. You know he's in there for a fact?
I know for a fact.
You can take your door. You can
I
take it
swear
in.
to God, go ahead. Please. Just, I don't know what's wrong with this girl.
Oh, there's a girl in there with him?
Yes, I was with them. There's a girl in there. She's very slim. My husband said he didn't really get a good look at her. He's yelling at her. She can't see out of her eyes.
Okay.
So this is why I'm nervous. This is why I've been calling her all morning, and I don't even know if that's even.
You know 100%. You know 100% they're in. Keep your hands up. Hey, whoop off. Hey, face that way. Just keep coming. Watch your step. Right there. You get that?
This guy's been arrested for abducting women in the past before, by the way.
No. There's no one else up there? Where do you live at here? Thompson? How far away is that?
30 minutes, like close to Shanda.
Why don't you just sit down here?
No, guys, I'm water.
Oh, maybe just some stuff here.
Hi, number 12.
Y'all, this case is so disturbing. I just don't understand what honestly happened here. So this mother right here that lives in Louisville, Kentucky, and her 2 boys, on Wednesday, y'all, she unalived her sons via gunshot. Now, I'm not 100% sure what went down and why this woman did this to her own children, but allegedly the neighbor said she felt like something was off. Police were contacted and they did discover the 2 boys in their house with wounds. Now, she was still alive, the mother is still alive, and she is currently in custody. But this is just so bizarre and tragic. She posted on Facebook just a couple days before that photos of her children and things of that nature, going to the school bus and stuff like that. And to think that Wednesday she did something unthinkable to her kids. Now her boys are named Peanut and Jaden Howard. You guys, absolutely adorable. Like, this whole case is just heartbreaking to me, to think that these two precious little boys, you know, experience what they experienced by the hands of their own mother. And the fact that she would do this to her own children is very upsetting. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure what went down and why this woman did what she did. I don't know if she was going through psychosis or whatever the case may be. There was a strange Facebook post posted that she had reposted regarding a baby daddy situation. I'm not 100% sure what the situation was that caused her to do this to her own kids, but this is absolutely horrific, you guys. And justice for her kids. This is very sad.
This is the awful and disturbing murder of Shanda Sherry, one of the most unsettling true crime cases ever. In the early morning of January 11th, 1992, 12-year-old Shanda Sherry was abducted from her home in Indiana and tortured to death by 4 teenage girls in extremely inhumane ways. Melinda Lovelace, Lori Tackett, Tawny Lawrence, and Hope Rippey, all 4 of these girls had somewhat of an extremely rocky home life growing up, with allegations of molestation and physical abuse from family members. In junior high, Melinda Lovelace started dating a girl named Amanda Heverin. However, their relationship was extremely toxic and they broke up. But fast forward to October of 1991, and this is where Amanda meets Shanda and their friendship turns into a romantic relationship. This angers Melinda and she begins discussing ways to murder Shanda. So Melinda put together a plan to have her 3 friends knock on Shanda's door a little after midnight on January 11th while she hid in the back of Lori's car under a blanket with a knife. The girls would then go and tell Shanda, who they never actually met, that they were friends with Amanda and that they wanted to hang out. But when Shanda got into the car, Melinda jumped out of the back seat and held the knife to Shanda's throat. They then drove Shanda deep into the forest to an abandoned house, where they stripped her naked, tied her up, and brutally beat her for 7 hours straight. Melinda tried to cut Shanda's throat, but the knife was too dull, so instead she just strangled her until she was unconscious. All 4 girls then threw Shanda in the trunk, went back to Lori's house to enjoy soda and clean up. At one point, Shanda woke up and began screaming, so Lori repeatedly stabbed her in the chest multiple times. The girls then got back in the car and drove around for a couple more hours. During the ride, Shanda, who was still alive and stuffed in the trunk, started crying, and when Melinda opened the trunk, Shanda sat up covered in blood with her eyes rolled back in the back of her head. Melinda then beat Shanda with a tire iron until she went conscious. She even said that she felt her skull cave in. They then continued driving until they found a burn pile. They then wrapped Shanda in a blanket, sprayed her with Windex, and covered her in gasoline, and set her on fire, but despite all of this, Shanda was still alive. That was until the girls noticed she was still alive and they went back and set her on fire again, killing her. All 4 girls then left to go eat breakfast while Shanda burnt to death. Melinda Lovelace joked about Shanda's burnt body by saying she looked like the breakfast sausage she was eating. The next day though, Shanda Sherry's body was discovered by 2 hunters. Tony and Hope then broke down and confessed to the police about the murder. And all 4 girls were charged with the murder of Shanda Sherry. Tony was sentenced to 25 years, Hope was sentenced to 35 years, and Lori and Melinda were sentenced to 60 years in prison. But what makes this disturbing and sickening case even more sickening, all 4 of these girls are out of prison and free, walking the earth, despite having little to no remorse of what they did to Shanda Sherry. The Shanda Sherry case remains one of the most disturbing and haunting true crime cases out there, because these were all young teenage girls who were doing something extremely horrible to another girl. This was one of those cases that were extremely hard to read, and rest in peace to Shanda Sherry.